After reflecting on the last 5 decades, I've come to realize that I have a story. One of my music and my sound, and the marvelous collaborations with friends and colleagues. With a little help from these friends, I will share with you the journey that has shaped my musical life. I suppose every musician has a story, and my story is not new, but it is mine. Welcome to The Path Taken, hosted by Tom Farley and Alton Riddick.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a while, but we are still on the path. But it's good to be back. I am Alton Riddick, and the person you heard laughing in the background is Tom Farley. He is the star of the show every week. So not every week, but every time we do this, he is the star. How you doing, Tom?
Doing well, man. It has been a long time. It's really good to see you and really good to have this conversation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, the take I have on this is I had to think about it for a minute, because all these songs we have talked about here and there, throughout this whole, project. And so I was like, well, how do you talk about something you've already talked about? Well, I think the angle that we didn't take, because, we're talking about this particular one and that particular one, and they weren't all together in a package like they are on Renaissance Man. And so I thought it would be good to talk about it this way. Now, when I listened to it again, as a collective, I was like, this song, all these songs for the most part, and I'll ask you a question about the one that's poking out to me with respect to what I'm about to say, but all these songs are like life. And really, if you listen to it, it's not just life, but, pun intended, it's a path that we're taking with you. And
I agree. I totally agree. Go ahead.
And, I didn't really want to talk about the music necessarily, because, we've already talked about the music and, how it got made and this and that for the most part. But the biggest thing I want to talk about with you with this and for our audience is how reflective it is on the journey of life. Now, some people go through, some things they don't. But by and large, we will all, if you live long enough, maybe if you live past 20, 25 years old, you are going to go through some of these things.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
And some of it you go through yourself, some of it you go through with others, like, as our parents grow older, or friends, or illness, or what have you. But it's all a path that we take personally and adjacent. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you about, wanted to kind of pick your brain. And as you were putting this together, like I said, as a collective, were you thinking about that? Was this intentional?
It wasn't intentional. That's a good question. It wasn't intentional, but mainly because it started out with a couple of songs, actually 3 songs that were actually released as singles. And when they were released as singles, people had a chance to, do a dance with them. I had, and a couple of them were with Greg Weichel, so I put them in on his podcast, that kind of thing. But there was a period of time, in which I'm retired. I have a lot of time to reflect. It's, part of, a lot of life issues just kind of happened. I lost a lot of friends during that particular time between the previous album and this one. I lost my nephew to a drug overdose. There's so many things that happened. Plus, it's Stevie. Finally, Stevie finally got, we finally got one of his songs to the point of professional publication, and it actually turned out very, very well. So, but his contribution is a very spiritual one. Stevie's a very spiritual guy, and it comes out in his music a lot. So, getting that one on there, it's a tribute to our musical styles, but it's also very, it's a very, getting in touch with God kind of song. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of reflection here. Whether it's reflection about growing old or reflection about losing somebody or making sure that you have those conversations with them before they go, basically, free me, please, help me out of my addiction, that kind of thing. The only song that really doesn't fit the entire reflective life experience pattern is 10 and 14. But even in and of itself, that song has a great history to it and a great collaborative kind of essence to it as far as the people I played with on that.
Well, actually, you know what? You're right. Because 10 and 14 sticks out like a sore thumb. Because when you started at track 1, which 10 and 14 is the beginning track. You're like, okay, you set the tone. This is what this is going to be, whatever it is. And then you punch me in the mouth. And I'm like,
I do really? That a lot to you, man. I'm sorry.
You really do. It's cold blooded, man. I thought we were best friends, man. Anyway, we are. I'm kidding. But I'm just saying, it's just like you set a tone with that first track. I think every record is that way. When you listen to that first track, you kind of understand, what's going to happen, or you presume that what's going to happen on this journey that you're taking with the artist. So this was kind of like, okay. And then the next one is like Better with Age. And then Before You Go, and you're like, what in the world just happened? So I'm like, for me, what I call the song in my own mind, when it's not separate from this collective, is I call it Piss and Vinegar. Because when you're young, that's kind of what life feels like for most of us. I mean, if you're relative, youthful health, and you don't have any real issues or problems or whatever it is, you kind of live that regular American middle class lifestyle. And you don't really start to have issues until you're like 20 something. So it's just like, when I hear it, it's just like, maybe that's what he meant. Maybe this was that youth, that everything is cool and everything, you have the energy to do everything. Nothing hurts. Nothing's crackling. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you're not sick. It's all good. So was that the intent, or was that just one of those tracks that just, you had to put it on there? Well,
what you said is absolutely true. In one respect, certainly, I wanted to make sure that, hey, I'm still here. The energy is still there. It's not a youthful thing. It's an old man thing. I mean, because I was in my late 60s when I did that. And when it comes right down to it, a lot of people seem to back off, when they get to their 60s, in terms of their energy or the way that they actually think about the music. They still like to rock, but whether or not they can actually put that together in a recording, and whether they can find the people who share that sentiment that can actually put it out there. I was just very lucky plus, on the second side, it's an introduction to, I guess you could say I think I put myself on a new level as far as engineering is concerned. It's tight. It's really well played by the players. And the loops that I use for the percussion, absolutely, blow everything that I use in terms of percussion away, and earlier stuff. So, cause I use those particular drums on Free Me as well. So at the end of the day, it was a statement like, okay, I'm in my 60s, but I still love to rip one out every once in a while. But also there's, all those life experiences, in terms of studio evolution, it kind of really put things together for me in terms of, I can really make this stuff sound even better than I did before. And that meant a lot to me to actually put that out. And of course, between Barry and Bernie and Greg, those guys are awesome, so they just stepped up to the plate and knocked it out of the fucking park. I mean, they just did. So I was just really lucky to have them along.
I agree, because I promise you, if that's what you're going for, that's exactly what happened. Because,
well, thanks.
I mean, when you're 60, that doesn't mean you can't mash the gas. It doesn't.
That's true.
I mean, like I said before, we're not talking about if you're, like you've been chronically ill or anything like that. We're just talking about your average person. And when you're 60, you still feel kind of good. I'm not far from that age, and I'm like, I still feel kind of good. I can get a few things done if I want to. It's just like, I totally get that. So that's, I really wanted to ask you that question. I don't think I've ever asked you that before, but yeah, that was one of those things where it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb if you're just thinking about it based on the other 5 tunes. But now that you explain it, it fits, because that is part of life.
It is. Plus, it also reinforces to me the fact that even at an older age, I can still communicate really, really well with the people I'm playing with. I still have a tremendous amount of faith in creative license, in letting them do what they do best, and knowing that what they do best is going to make the song absolutely spectacular. So a lot of people be old and curmudgeon-y, so to speak, as they move along. And I proved to myself, I think, at this particular stage that hasn't set in yet. I haven't, become inflexible. As a matter of fact, a lot of ways I'm more flexible because I see more options and better options than I had before.
Truth. I love it. Old men aren't old. That's what's up, man. Because I'm going that way. You give me hope. Well, we're going to move on to, the selling part, which is the rest of it. And better with age, that's a good one.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Where are you in life with this? Is this kind of one of those songs that get written from experience, just from life experience? Because there's some kind of, new stuff in there. There's some kind of older man stuff in there, older person stuff in there. What was the inspiration? Where did it all come from? Just tell us about Better with Age.
Well, you get to a certain stage mentally and physically, emotionally, and everything, I guess, to where age really starts to become an issue. To me, there's a good side and a bad side. So I put the bad side first, give them the bad stuff first and then give them the redeeming stuff in the second verse. But, life does have a way of making you pay. You get sick more often. You get aches and pains and little ailments and stuff like that just really bug the hell out of you. I mean, I call it old man shit because at the end of the day, it's the stuff that older people deal with. Everything from, I didn't know that was going to happen to me, or you bump your arm into a cabinet and all of a sudden you get one of those arm bruise things that old people get, you say, oh, that's old man shit. So at the end of the day, there's that. And basically the older you get, the harder and worse that kind of gets. But the second part is you're still around and you still have your friends and you still have your family, your wife, and got Barry and all kinds of good stuff going on. I'm still writing. And every time I put my pen to the page, it just, I get pumped. There is life surging through, my thoughts onto a page. And that makes all the difference. And of course, the conversations that I have with my friends and my colleagues, whether they be in education or music, those things are incredibly enriching. It was all brought out by my friend Bob Young, who passed away, and he was the head of our men's group. And Bob, really, he was in his 80s, late 80s when he died. And so basically I learned a lot about what kind of trials and tribulations older people actually go through. And he had his fair share. So I got a chance to actually have that. And Bob was a really big inspiration. But also just the smaller issues that I had, not the big ones that he was dealing with, but the smaller issues that I had showed me what was coming. And I felt like, when it was all distilled down, it was very, very simple. There's a good part to growing old and there's a bad part to growing old. But I like to embrace the good because at the end of the day, that's life. That's the way it should be. You have to deal with the negative stuff, but the good stuff is really good. The collaborations, the writing, the fun, the humor, all the things that make life really worthwhile.
Now, would you say between the ages of 50 and say 70, would you say that's a sweet spot where you're not so broken down and you can still remember and you can still do? Would you say that that's the sweet spot in life?
Oh yeah, it is. But I'm in my 70s now, and there are little things that really get in the way. For example, not to get too particular, I developed a trigger finger in my thumb, which kept me from playing my guitar for about 4 or 5 weeks. I got it shot and all the rest of that stuff, and it's basically gone away. But that's something that, that really kept me away from something that I love to do, which is play my guitar. I'm back to playing it now. But at the end of the day, that was a problem because, and this stuff I didn't do anything to make it that way. It's just something an ailment that just kind of cropped up that older people generally have the tendency to get, especially if you're using your hands a lot, which I do. soul, it's taken its toll, waiting for you to relent. The simple things keep getting harder, and I know that I'm turning a page. Take a look through my eyes, and you'll soon realize that it doesn't get better with age. No, it doesn't get better with age. The time that I spend with my colleagues and friends, for the time that I spend on my own, for my wife and her conversation, and the time that I spend in my home. Oh, my heart starts to beat a bit faster as my words flow out on the page. When you look through my eyes, you'll soon realize that it only gets better with age. It can only get better with age. Yes, it always gets better with age.
Well, that's a perfect segue, because the next tune is called Before You Go. And it's sad, but it's not.
It is.
It's a lot of things that are darker. Was it somebody that you were losing slowly, or somebody that you lost all of a sudden but didn't get a chance to finish? Or help us understand where that one came from. That's a great song.
For the most part, it came from watching the slow but steady decline of a very old and good friend. Actually, two old and good friends. One is Gary Miller. I knew Gary for over 50 years. Gary had a terminal disease, cancer. And basically, I thought about the last time that I spoke with Gary. I remember that conversation. It's really kind of, it's important to remember those things that it's important to have the conversations that eventually you're going to have. He didn't know when he was going to go. Neither did I. But before he went, I wanted to have a great conversation with Gary. I wanted to tell him how much he meant to me. I wanted for him to know how really special our relationship was. I knew him mostly through education and the educational projects and things that we did over the years. He was wonderful. And his wife, Sue, she was there all the time with the education stuff with us. But Gary was really quite a good friend. We developed software together. We did all kinds of stuff together. The other was Bob Young. And I didn't know Bob for anywhere near as long as I knew Gary. But Bob had a very, very big impact. And I remember the last time that we were over to Bob's house for our men's meeting before he died. I had a conversation with him the meeting before. And the last meeting that we were there, we walked in and Bob couldn't get out of bed. So basically, at that particular time, I did not engage with Bob because everybody was in there, and I had that experience before with my grandmother. She was close to dying, and she lived in West Virginia. And the old style habit back then was everybody would just sit around in the bedroom. There'd be food in the kitchen and stuff like that, but everybody just sit around. They maybe talk a little bit, but my brother and I drove up from Tech to see her one last time because we knew the time was going to be short. And I did not have the chance to really say all the things. I didn't want to whisper them to my grandmother, but I also didn't want to have my most personal final moment to be shared by a bunch of strangers who really, were just, hanging out. I mean, they were her friends and they loved her and all the rest of that stuff. I know. But at the end of the day, I felt like that was a moment that was stolen from us because we didn't have a chance to actually really engage in the conversations with my grandmother that we wanted to, my older brother and I, that we wanted to. And I felt regret from that. I felt regret to this day. Even talking about it, I feel regret because she was incredibly special to the both of us. So, it's almost like, don't waste your time on frivolous stuff. When you're with somebody and you know that there might be issues that might keep you from seeing them again, you need to say the words. You need to give the hugs. You need to let them know how much you care, how much you love them, and how much they have been in your life. Because if you don't, there's grief, but there's also regret. So I think that that's very important. The fact that it's such a simple tune, it's only 2 minutes long, such a simple tune, but boy, David Mills on bass and Bernie Lee on piano, 3 instruments, man, that they just, I mean, the whole thing, just sounded so full. And the little parts that they put in there and the moments they followed the lyrics and just made it so special. They really did a great job on that song.
I agree. It's a good one. I mean, it's probably one of your better ones as far as I'm concerned. It just will make you think,
Yes.
You don't have time to waste. I mean, you can't get to every moment every time, but if you have the opportunity to have a moment, have it. Because I promise you, it's not promised for tomorrow. It's not.
You're absolutely right. No one is promised tomorrow.
No, because you're talking to somebody right now, tomorrow, they might be gone. So right now is the last time.
That's right.
So understand that. That's just life. I mean, I'm not trying to be whatever you might take it. It's dark, but that is life.
Yes, it is. And I think people squander a lot of time on topics and suggestions that have absolutely nothing to do with what really leading a good life is all about. And also what their relationships with a person might have happened to have meant to them for whatever amount of time that they might have spent with them. The longer amount of time, the more endearing it happens to be. So it's special, and I think it's very much a part of living. Before you go, I'd like to try to put a twinkle back in your eye, to say the things I need to say, because I'll miss you every day, to sing a song, make you smile, sit and hold you for a while, and try my best to let you know just one more time before you go.
Great tune, man. Great tune.
Thank you, buddy.
And that's a great segue, life and the eventual death of all of us, and to, sinking feeling, which is, like you said before, is really spiritual.
It is.
It's not even spiritual. It's about God in particular. It's not trying to sugarcoat it for anyone. It's like, this is, this is a part of some people's journey as they, and born and die. And he's, not trying to nickname it at all. This is a very important part of his life. And when I say his, I mean Steve Gallagher. So let us know who Steve is to you, which I already know, but, let everyone else know, and let us know what he was thinking when he was, sitting down to write the lyrics for this one.
Well, Steve and I really cemented our relationship. We had this conversation before up at college at Virginia Tech. Part of what the growing relationship between us was the spiritual side of it was not only seen through music, but also Steve and I got into a lot of stuff. There was a book of Hindu philosophy called Be Here Now. We both got into that opened up all kinds of interesting ways of looking at the universe. Jesus Christ Superstar came out then. And so, needless to say that we wore the grooves out of that album. I mean, there was so much good stuff in there. And of course, a lot of good conversations about spirituality came out of that. Steve's not a churchgoer, but Steve has always been, had his thumb on the pulse of nature and what the essence of being spiritual is all about. And I think that's followed him throughout his entire life. Certainly his music and his he's not a monk, but at the end of the day, he carries his spirituality with him, and he applies it to all the situations that he's in, whether it's in his work or in his family or in his music, or he has all kinds of different hobbies and developmental stuff that he does. But at the end of the day, being a spiritual being is very much about what Steve is all about. And I think that song has some really great moments lyrically to it that are very much a part of him. Sinking thing like something lost that can't be found. It has one thing, I know that it's right, but it all felt so right, but I knew that it was wrong. I mean, things that people do that basically take them away from being a good spiritual person. And he has a desire to want to be a very, very positive person. And I think that's what that song is all about. He needs some help, and he's asking God for it.
In a nutshell, I mean, that's exactly what I got from it. It's a great addition. A lot of people wouldn't invite that kind of thing into their collection, but it's still part of life in general, whether you like it or not. And for some people, they take a conscious effort to include that in their lives and make it about that in particular. So I was pretty impressed with that. I was just kind of like, okay, he put it out there for you. I mean, what nickname? Like I said, he was not nicknaming anything. This is who he's about. These are his struggles. This is how he repairs it. And so I totally get that.
Well, plus, as you well know, it was part of the long experimental journey of putting a song together with Steve. It took us about 3 years to do that song, and the reasons, all the experimentation and different versions and stuff like that. I listened to it the other night, and there's some really nice moments in there. Also, it not only has our guitar parts in there, but it also has our harmonies, which, that's something that goes way back to tech as well, to experimenting with harmony. So it was a good piece. And I'd say the vast majority of that song was done before any kind of, I guess you could say, plugins that you could do to adjust pitch or tone or anything like that were really in place. If they were, we didn't have them and we didn't know how to use them. So basically that was one of the last things that we did that was just pretty much right out of the gate, so to speak, in terms of we might have had to do a track over or something like that, or part of a track over, but it was not done with, Mellotron or something like that, Melodyne, or something like that.
Understood. Turned out good, man. Turned out good.
Yeah, it did.
I love the message. I mean, that's my favorite part of it. It took, in this day and age, it took a lot of stones to put it on there, to be honest with you.
Well, I think it's honest. I think it's something that a lot of people think, if they're, no matter what religion they happen to be in, God or spirit is what it is to them. And I think all of us at one time or another feel like that we're sinking. Steve has another song that we're working on right now called Catch Me When I Fall, which is another one, which is basically you climb higher and higher, and all of a sudden you stumble and you fall, and hopefully spiritually there's somebody there to catch you. Of course, that would be God, Jesus, whatever you want to do, Buddha. I mean, at the end of the day, he puts a lot of time into his lyrics. They're very thoughtful, and they also have a specific message that I think comes across to most people because he speaks what a lot of people are already thinking.
Truth.
Stop this sinking feeling of something lost and can't be found. I raise my eyes up to your Father. Please don't let me go down. I came as a thief in the night, searching for the truth, lost in my generation, so impatient in my youth. I came upon a clear white light shining from above. I've never felt such sweetness, I've never known such love. I stole a glimpse of eternity, I heard the river song. It all felt so right, but I knew that it was wrong. After 40 years in the wilderness, trying to find my way, it all leads to you, Lord, is all I have to say. I followed you up to Calvary, watched you as you smooth. I wanna hang upon your altar, I wanna feel your ancient wounds. I know my sins are forgiven me, but it doesn't seem enough. I need to walk within your light, Lord. I need to feel your love, your love. I can't stop this sinking feeling of something lost and can't be found. I raise my hands up to your Father. Please don't let me go down, go down.
About the giving.
Yeah.
For me, it was not hard, but it took me to a place. I hope I never have to go there again. But all the thing, my first thought was when I was listening to it, and anytime I listen to it, is the caregiving angle with respect to the person that you care for and how hard it is for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Tanya and I were caregivers for my parents for years. And that was really pretty hard. The song, even though they were in the back of my mind, at that particular time, they had already passed away. And the immediate issue was Tanya's mother, who's also named Tanya. And she had, the first verse is all about my relationship with her. Tanya and I spent the better part of 12 years being the closest contact with her, as far as, conversation, as far as helping her out, as far as doing her shopping, getting her medications, all the rest of that kind of stuff. And most of the time, I'd be going over and taking care of that business. And we would sit down, called her Ma. Me and Ma would sit down and talk. And we'd have our conversations and our moments and stuff like that. And she had dementia creeping in slowly but surely, but we had good conversations over many of the years that we were together, and just the two of us hanging out and talking in her apartment. So, but then things with Gary started kicking in. The second verse is more about Gary than it is about Ma, because she didn't have cancer, she didn't have chemo, she didn't have 1,000 medical appointments and having to deal with doctors that don't know what the hell they're doing, and finally find one that actually does. To go through all of that, to go through the preliminaries and the operations, and then the post-op and the anesthesia and the medications you have to take, and getting the doses right. I mean, all that stuff can drive you out of your mind, in terms of not allowing you to even sit back and enjoy just the simplest moments in life, like sitting in a rocking chair on the front porch and enjoying a sunrise or a sunset or something like that. You really don't even have that kind of, I guess you could say, release. But if you're the person who's actually doing the caregiving, I can tell you, it is very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult to see them go through all of that, but also that these are moments that will be so precious later on. The conversations I had with my parents, the conversations I had with Tanya's mother, are things that I will carry with me the rest of my life. They're very meaningful and they're very poignant, and they are full of love and humor and just life experience. And so. It's, you have the caregiving, you care a lot, but also it's how much you want to give. I'll push this wheelchair for miles. That's my take on it. If you're in, you're in. Either you're going to do it right or you're not going to do it. So that's what we did with my parents. That's what we did with Tanya's mom. And I felt like, plus, that was another collaboration with me and Stevie on our finger picking, which is one of the best finger picking collaborations we've ever had. And so it just worked. It was simple, it was direct, but anybody who's a caregiver can connect to that song. They understand that song. And I tried to make it as beautiful and especially with the background vocals as I could, to let them know that it is a hard, it's a hard sacrifice on a lot of people's parts, but also it's incredibly rewarding.
Absolutely. Like I said before, I've had a touch of it.
Yes, you have.
And I saw my parents go through it with, all of their parents almost. And, it's just not easy. And I think a song like that, it doesn't take much for you to go back to that place. And I kind of wanted to ask you, I felt like I wanted to ask you, when one of the characters was a little irritated, where are you? My hair is falling out, all these things. I could feel that irritation. How do you take that as the caregiver, trying to compartmentalize your emotions so you can do the job?
That's a great question. Usually those kinds of things, losing hair, developing a twitch here and there, a soreness here and there, whatever the case might be, a rash here and there. Those are things that can actually can be alleviated. Something like dementia, no, it's a constant, spiral down, so to speak. But those things can be fixed. Even over time, you can actually develop a little humor about them. I try to find as much humor in my growing old as I possibly can, because otherwise you drive yourself out of your mind. But there's also, you understand the need. I mean, they cannot do the things that you when they ask you, like, can you move that chair or something like that over there? Like, really, you can't do that? And all of a sudden it hits you. No, they can't. They simply can't. They're up, they're walking around, but they can't lift it. They can't maneuver it. They can't do it. They need your help. And so it can be depressing sometimes, but, most of the stuff, except for the long debilitative kind of stuff, most of the stuff can be fixed. It takes a little time. You can't do it immediately sometimes, but can be fixed. And then after the fact, you can look back on it and not so much joke about it, but know that, that, okay, we fixed that and we fixed this and so forth. So we know there's a confidence there that things can get done. And I think that opens up all kinds of avenues of making your relationship stronger and just, giving you a deeper sense of each other.
Okay. Another great tune. It's really good. It's really dark. It's truthful. There are no lies detected, as I say. None.
Well, thank you, man. It meant an awful lot to me, because not only with my parents, but also with Tanya's mom, there were a lot of really great moments that we had. And I'm glad we had them. I really am. Even though it's so hard to watch them, in a state of decline, at least it wasn't like over the cliff kind of thing. It was a slow and gradual. It was not, that's not good in a medical sense or in a watching your loved one sense, but, it did give you more time with them and allowed you to try and fix what you could in the time that you had left. Pick up some things at the grocer. Can you move my table and chair? I've been calling every 5 minutes. Can you see I'm losing my hair? Oh my. I'll be sure to get your medication. Save some time for touches and smiles. Say the words that make a conversation. I will push this wheelchair for miles. It's never about the hours. Cherish the time you share. It's sometimes about the giving, but always a care. It's been too many days on the chemo, and it's hard to keep anything down. A schedule full of appointments. I'm so tired of running around. Yes, I am. So many things to consider. So many things that I fear, but I wake up praying and hoping, and it's all because you are here. Yes, it is. I'll be sure to get your medication. Save some time for touches and smiles. Say the words that make a conversation. I will push this wheelchair for miles. It's never about the hours. Cherish the time you share. It's sometimes about the giving, but always the care. It's never about the hours. Cherish the time you share. It's sometimes about the giving, but always the care. Always the care.
Free Me is the heaviest.
It is.
Because now we're talking about something that some people won't ever, well, most people won't ever go through, but some people do. How you get there is how you get there, but once you're there, it's a lifelong thing. And you might lose. Some people lose. So
that's right.
With drug addiction, you know, you have been really, really close to this. You already mentioned it one time in this podcast. Give us this inspiration and tell us your personal story, man.
Well, there have been people in both of our families, Tanya's my family and my family, who have struggled with addiction. Certainly, we lost my nephew, but he's not the only person that has struggled with it in a very, very serious sense. It's hard to see. It's hard to see anybody struggling with that because I mean it impacts everything. It impacts their character. It impacts their relationships with their friends and family. It impacts their job. It impacts every single aspect of it to the point where, you know, if it gets really bad, can you even trust anything that comes out of their mouth? You know, I mean, because it's all about, you know, where can I pick up the next bit of money to get the stuff that I want to have to support my addiction. And, you know, to see somebody that you had great times with and great conversations with and shared a lot of love with, to see them start to give all of that away to everybody, not just to me, but to everybody, even their mothers and fathers, to give all that away in order to be able to try and, you know, finagle an extra buck or two to buy whatever you happen to be on at the time. That's hard. You know, it's hard to deal with one lie after another. It's hard to deal with the fact that somebody stole something and sold it or, you know, got money out of your purse or whatever the case might be. It's just very sad because you knew them before this actually happened. And so the decline itself is it's depressing. And so I saw all of that. And so every single line of that was taken from, you know, me witnessing from personal experience, the decline and even the death of people that I know and love. And of course, you know, if you're in the music business, yeah, Tanya and I were performing for over a quarter century. Don't tell me we didn't, you know, see drugs take their toll on musicians. Most of the time it would be alcohol. But, you know, cocaine, heroin, all the rest of that stuff, eventually meth, all that stuff started making its way into the system. And of course, you know, that was part of the music scene, so to speak. It wasn't for us because basically we just had too much going on. There's no way in the world we want to get into that anyway because we saw what it could actually do.
Understood. It's a good one. And again, it's dark, but it's dark for a reason because, you know, it's truthful. I mean, there's no hiding from it. It happens. Like I said, you know, some people that get addicted to drugs in particular, they win. But are you still winning because it's an everyday thing? You got to win by the moment. I won this moment. I don't know what the next one's going to be, but I won this one because the next 5 might be awful. And then you might fail. And then you have to start over. And then some people lose.
That's right. They do. There are some people who win. There's no doubt about that. I am a constant optimist in that respect. But it breaks my heart to have seen the people who didn't make it, for them to crash and burn or even die. It really, really hurts. And you do what you can. You support while you can. You make sure that you give what you can without being taken advantage of. That's the wisdom of trying to help somebody on addiction, to actually be able to know that what you're doing is actually going to be put to some good. And it possibly might help them in the long run to beat it, because it totally sucks. And I can't even imagine, deep down inside, they're good people too, but they are completely trapped and completely, I guess you could say they're just under the thumb of this thing and just cannot find a way out. So, especially if you're around other people that are doing the same thing, it makes it even more difficult, because they encourage that kind of behavior. So, it's just a hard one to swallow. There's no doubt about it. But also from a musical standpoint, I collaborated with more musicians on that one song than I'd ever done with any other song before. Each one of them came into the studio, put down their parts. It was not done, as a group. Even the vocals, everybody who did vocals on that came in and did their vocal part. I put it together. Those people were absolutely astounding. That song ended up being, one of the best production and performing experiences that I ever had. And to this day is still my number one on YouTube. So, people around the world can actually relate to this. I don't like to push it in front of their faces all the time, but every once in a while I'll post, check out Free Me. And I put it on about, 30 or 40 sites, and people do respond. They email me, they send me little, comments and stuff like that. People do relate to it. And I think that's, that makes me feel good that maybe at least it's doing something in the positive.
True enough. It's a great song. Hands down. It's a great song. I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, this is good. But the biggest thing for me is don't get me wrong, folks. I enjoy, happy, joy, like everybody else. But I also enjoy darkness without hyperbole, which is truth. And this has truth all over it. If you live long enough, you live the right life, or the right things happen to you, or, loved ones or whatever, you will experience all of these songs.
I think so too.
And it's kind of sad, but you will. It's just life. It's not anything in particular towards me or Tom or you. It's just life. If you live long enough, you will go through these things.
Yeah, life is hard. Don't let anybody tell you that it's not. I mean, you can get a tremendous amount of joy and love and great times with friends and family, and life can be a really a positive thing. There's no doubt about it, but it has its dark side. There's no discounting that. I mean, it just does. That's what life is. Life is hard work, and it's in all respects, whether it be earning a living, keeping a relationship up, whatever, keeping yourself up to where you can physically actually do the things that you want to do. So there's, but that doesn't mean you can't celebrate life. It doesn't mean that you can't find those moments and truly enjoy them on your own. But there was a lot of reflection on that album that came through the time that I had from doing the last one, which was the live album, to doing this one. There was awful lot of stuff that went on at that particular time. slave to my pills. I can't trust my memory. I can't pay my bills. It's a measure of my night. It's a measure of my day. It's a measure of the moments that I threw away. Forgotten my children, a true absentee. Forgotten my partner, how good it can be. Oh, free me, free me, free me, free me. Can you tell when you lose? I know I can't prosper from the life that I choose. Will I take it all in? Will I let it all go? Or bury my memory so you'll never know? Will I leave it behind and not even care? Like foam on the water, like smoke in the air. I can ask for forgiveness and hold on tight and pray that tomorrow I can make it all right. Oh, free me, free me, free me, free.
Yes, sir. Well, it's a great collection of songs. The songs are good. They stand on their own. The idea behind them, dark and truthful. I love it. And like each one of them will say, if I can quote Tommy Lee, every song is a moment in your life. It's a time in your life.
That's right. It is. And
not one of these songs is not. So I appreciate the work that you've done. And it's a great record, man.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Yeah, I still, after all this time, I still enjoy going back and listening to the tunes, not just for what the tunes have to offer lyrically or spiritually, but people forget when you're in my position. I was there for the recording of every single track, of every single song. As a matter of fact, I recorded, except for a couple of things, acoustic guitar parts that I played that Stevie recorded for me, sat in the driver's seat for me, or you did. At the end of the day, those particular moments are incredibly special. I mean, I sit back and I think before you go, I sit back and I remember looking at David Mills, and I remember looking at Bernie Lee, watching them play their parts on that, knowing as they were going through it how good it was going to sound when I actually got finished with it, because they gave me such an incredibly good creative interpretation. And it's that way on every single song on that album. And of course, you go back into the previous albums, and it's it just makes for an incredible reaffirming moment for me, because it's not just the fact that it's the song and how they serve the song, and it's my relationship with them. And as you said, as you pointed out many times, it's all about the relationships. It is. So yeah, that album is another testament to some really good relationships with people that I truly respect and adore.
Okay, sir. Well, it has always, as always, this is a lot of fun. This record in particular, I think, is a departure from everything you've done to this point. But again, you have aged. And
yes, I have.
You put this out 4 years ago, and at that point, you have a lot to reflect on, and there was a lot of honesty in it, and I really appreciate the work that you've done. So, any parting shots, sir?
No, I just appreciate you taking the time for us to go over this, so people have an idea of what's behind it, and know a little bit more about us and the music, and I just feel blessed that we can even do it.
Yes, sir. Well, folks, this was a penultimate podcast. We have one more to do, and that will be it. But this particular one was fun for me, because it's a great record, and it's very reflective, and it's very honest. And so I'm Alton Riddick on behalf of Tom Farley. We appreciate you listening and, walking, the last steps on this particular path taken. Thank you very much. Good night. This episode was produced by Tom Farley and Alton Riddick, edited and mixed by Alton Riddick for Edit Your Truth. On behalf of Tom, this is Alton signing off until we meet again on The Path Taken.